Hello ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to make a revised and final top list for each role at each position for the World Championship. The last video was very long and convoluted, and I don't think it's something that, fits everyone's fancy. I did a lot of those things off the cuff too, and I made some changes, and I came to some realizations, and I kind of showcased my thought process live. And I didn't want to, leave the top list discussion, my point to be that wishy-washy at the end. So I just wanted to go through it once again and to make it into a more condensed video. And then also, also like describe my group stage predictions without having Twitch chat nagging me. Nevertheless, let's just jump into it. AD carry position. The big change was that I put Rekkles here, and I moved up Deft, and I removed Ghost. So as I was making the list, I felt very strange about Rekkles not being here, because Rekkles was the best AD carry in a region with a lot of good AD carries, honestly. I think Rekkles stood above the rest. His experience speaks for itself. This is a player that when it comes to crunch time, delivers. And I think Rekkles belongs in the top 5 for the same reasons as the other top 5 AD carries stand here. Ruler, I think in the current meta and this year as a whole, has been absolutely phenomenal. The last time he won the World Championship, almost single-handedly did it together with the support. Ruler is a fantastic player. Always brings the highest level of consistency and raises the bar for what is like a lowest potential performance for Genji always. Ruler is insanely good because just like Rekkles and just like the LPL AD carries, the opposition in Korea when it comes to the AD carry role is also super stacked, and Ruler time and time again delivers. I think he performs like constantly at a 95%, and I say that because Jackeylove, he has moments where he goes 100%, if that makes sense, but his average is a little bit lower than Ruler, and that's why I put him on second. It's important to note that if anyone, if there is a world where these were switched around, I wouldn't mind too much. It's just a question of personal bias. It's important to note that all of these lists that anyone makes are going to be filled with a lot of personal biases, because it is what it is in the end. I watched all top esports games last split, and I watched most Genji games, all Genji games last split, and you remember what you remember, what stands out to you, right? And I think in the case of Jackeylove Ruler discussion, I think either way can be done. I think Loken is like a Ruler light. Doesn't have like a crazy highlight reel, but it's insane how solid he is. It's insane how he is undervalued by most of the community. I think Loken has had a crazy good year, and I think he went a little bit under the radar because he isn't that big of a signing in contrast to like Jackeylove, who went to top esports, that is going to have a lot of eyes on him. I think Loken is a fantastic AD carry, and definitely if you put up Loken against either Jackeylove or Ruler, you're not going to be worried. The same thing can be said for Deft. I think in the finals between DRX and Damwon, I think the biggest problem for them were draft issues, and I think DRX still, in a world where they had very coin flippy drafts throughout the season, they still managed to play super high and have a very good scoreline. And I think Deft, he has issues with his back. Hopefully that settles. If that settles, I think there's a conversation for him to be among the other ones up in the top 3, but definitely he belongs in top 4. Has good synergy with Keria, and I think the sky is the limit here for Deft. Fit for Rekkles, we already spoke about it, but this would be my top 5. Honorable mentions would be Huanfeng, I think belongs here, Huanfeng, and then depending on how well the WooCamp goes for perks, and then Ghost. Those would be my honorable mentions, but I decided not to add them this time because I wanted to make this list as clear-cut as possible. We move on to jungle. Kanavi still first. Kanavi just did most of the heavy lifting for JDG, and at the same time, you know, his team allowed him to do so. This is a team that caters to this style very, very well. I know a lot of people look at the final and view that as the standout performance for Kanavi. But he had, if you take a look at game 2, that was complete dominance from Kanavi. There's many performances throughout the regular season which were incredible from Kanavi, and coming into the World Championship, being great at Evelyn, being great at Nidalee, Lilia, Graves. This is just going to give you a massive advantage because this is going to be the meta, and that's why I kind of struggled at first placing Selfmade on this list, because in a world like European junglers, the jungle meta in Europe has just been so behind, and the reason I decided to put Selfmade back here is because in a team that struggles to play together, he finds ways to shine. Usually the way you describe junglers is you pay attention to how good their teammates are and how well they can synergize together, and this has been Fnatic's core issue for a very long time, as long as I remember. And to shine as a jungler in those environments is super incredible. There is going to be a world where a lot of bans are going to land and fall in Selfmade's direction, and this is going to make Fnatic look significantly weaker, but I don't think that takes away from Selfmade's individual skill. I think in terms of pathing and mechanics, I think he is up there, and I think some of the jungle issues, I think, tend to be a team issue more so than a Selfmade issue, and that's the conclusion that I've reached on that topic. I'm sure Selfmade, if it comes down to it and they need to play Nidalee, I think Selfmade would be completely fine, and that's why I think he belongs in this list with the rest of them. Karsa, I know a lot of people don't rate Karsa highly, but we need to put it in context of what Karsa's career is. Karsa is a jungler that has consistently been at the top ever since he began playing. So with Flash Wolves, he was constantly, causing upsets. Back when the LMS, was, a one-team region, HQ, sometimes doing some magic too. Of course, with the TF Fizz one trick, I can't recall his name. But Karsa, people judge his form too much based off of, some games that were sloppy during the regular season. Karsa delivers when it matters, and that means the world to me. Karsa in the finals and playoffs was super good. I think Karsa is a jungle that you can rely on when you're in the semifinals against the best of the best, and that's why I think he belongs in second place. His career speaks for itself. He has consistently been one of the best junglers in the world, and people are putting too much weight on a player of his caliber onto a regular season performance, even though he's had some good games in regular season too. I think the series against Kanavi was beautiful. I think his playoffs run was beautiful. Karsa can play any style, synergizes super well with his team. I think Karsa is a very complete jungler, just like Kanavi. Third is Canyon, and there is an argument to put Canyon above Karsa or even Kanavi, but I struggle to do so because I think the field of junglers that Canyon has had to plow through has been much easier in comparison to Top Esports and JDG. So with that being said, Canyon still a fantastic player. I just think when we think of the LCK junglers, for example, the rest of the ones that are being sent to Worlds, Pyosik and Klid, they are very inconsistent. They have performances where they do well, but at the same time, they have performances where they do quite bad. And looking at Canyon and his performance in the finals, he didn't really need to do much to win that one. I think Pyosik did some good things on his Lilia and managed to get some advantages, but it just wasn't enough. And then eventually, DRX kind of stumbled over themselves. Nevertheless, that's a Canyon on third. Sofm, fourth. I think Sofm is a very exciting jungler because he doesn't really fit the mold of the other 3 junglers or even the other 4 junglers that are on this list. He has great synergy with Sword Art, finds very unique ways of playing the game, is very unorthodox, and if you are not used to him, I think he can cause a lot of serious damage. I think, you know, the removal of Peanut is natural on this list for me because someone actually sent me some pro views of Peanut and they were very, very disappointing. And considering what Sofm did to Peanut and Suning did in general to LGD for 6 games straight, it's a no-brainer to have Sofm 4th here and then Selfmade on 5th for the reasons that I mentioned before. Honorable mentions, I guess, would be maybe... well, I think these 5 are kind of in a class of their own. I think, if anything, Jankos and then maybe Peanut. But Jankos as well, you know, Jankos is in a tough spot because your team defines what you can play and cannot play, right? I have no doubt in my mind that if Jankos wanted to, he can play Evelynn, he can play Hecarim, no problem. He played with Shen. I think his eye for the game is super, super strong. I just think the meta itself might be a problem for G2 because they are not used to playing for their jungler. They always have the jungler to cater to them. So I don't blame necessarily Jankos for this shortcoming. And I think Jankos is still in the finals against Selfmade, plays super, super well. But the point about Fnatic and Selfmade still matters, right? It still matters. Next in line is support. So the criteria for support is, you know, how you impact the map, how you build visions, how you, not visions, but vision, how you take risks, because support is inherently a role where you have to take a lot of risks. And in order to like maximize value, you need to find angles, you need to find vision, you need to be, you know, very, very creative in the way you approach the game. That's why a lot of the best supports, they tend to die a lot, honestly. They die a lot, and the ones that don't, like if we look at Crisp from last year at the World Championship, there were times where he died with Thresh in the middle of nowhere, but that risk in itself, you know, the price you're paying for a couple of ins is definitely worth it. You know, it's just worth it. So you have to calculate when you take these risks because, of course, the closer you are to an objective, the riskier it gets. And if you die at the right time, maybe it's unimpactful and so forth. There's a lot of calculations that need to be made when you make these gambles. And that's why you see someone like Hylissang and Mickey sometimes running it down. It's just the nature of the role at the highest level. I think LvMao has found... a very, very good balance on how he wants to impact the map and how he wants to play the game. And balance is the key word, because I think that also suits into Beryl. How they go for lane and how they view the game, how they impact the map. I think these are things that are super, super important. Keria and Life was spotted into here because I think their lane phase is super, super good. Mechanically, Keria and Life, you know, I believe this is the rookie year. Mechanically, these are monster players. Kaiser, also up here, because I imagine, you know, looking like he's the type of player that is ready to, like mechanically, he's on par. He's like the European Life or Keria. I think it's a good parallel, but I think Kaiser has a very good eye for the game. I think a lot of Mad Lions victories came off of the synergy between Kaiser and Shadow and how they supplement the way Humanoid wants to play. The big difference between Beryl and LvMao and the other 3 that are on this list is just the precision in terms of how they roam and how they impact the map is just slightly better in Beryl and LvMao's favor, while I think Keria and Life Kaiser are a bit more lane oriented. We continue on to the top lane. Top lane is something that didn't change. Well, I should say honorable mentions on this list, right? Honorable mentions would be Hylissang, Sword Art, and Mickey. Those would be the honorable mentions, and also maybe Mark, but I'm not so sold on LGD as a whole, but we're going to talk about that later. JDG Zoom, the most complete top laner, plays every every meta, can be the aggressor. He can be the one that takes up the pressure. Almost never dies, and when it does, you kind of almost agree with it. I think Zoom is the scariest top laner at this tournament by a wide margin. I think you combine all of these top laners' strengths and you get Zoom. Literally, I think Zoom is the Deshai of this tournament. I think he is, definitely the cream of the crop in this one. It's funny because people talk about Deshai as if he's some, washed up player, but he got back-to-back, all-star roster in the LPL, and he had a rough playoffs for sure, but everyone has such a short attention span, a short, their short-term memory is the only thing that serves them. I think if Deshai was in this tournament, I would be inclined to put him second, even if he had like a Cannon game where he went 1-10, because that's how every other top lane in this tournament would view him anyway. They would, you play against Deshai, and if your idea is to hope that he runs it down, just good luck. That's not how you prepare for someone. Deshai is still a very, very difficult player to play against. Wunder second. I think Wunder is someone that has an immense amount of experience, delivers always in the moments that matter. The description for Wunder would be very similar to Karsa. I think Wunder in his career has always been at the top, and coming into the World Championship, if he's sitting in boot camping and preparing with full force, I think Wunder can become very, very dangerous. The key thing about Wunder, like maybe the trait that Zoom will maybe miss, because Wunder is so unique to this, is the ability to innovate and think outside of the box. I think that's something that is very special to Wunder and also Bwipo, and I think this has always been Europe's greatest strength when it comes to the last year of the World Championship. Third is Dawa Noguri. Of course, he had the collapsed lung and he's recovering, and they are all telling us that he's doing well, but it's still kind of a question mark, because he's not Iron Man. It's a tough one. It's tough to deal with, and if Nuguri performs at the same level as always, that's going to be incredible. But I'm not going to put that into my calculation because it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to sit here and speculate. Yeah, Zoom. Well, Wunder is not going to be the type of person that deals with quarantine well, so I'm going to put him lower. Like, this is not me. I'm not looking into some crystal ball and trying to predict the future. Yeah, these variables that I can't define, I'm not going to use in my calculation here. So the same thing goes for Nuguri. I think there's an argument for putting 369 third, and I almost did. And I think if someone told me that I should, I would be like, yeah, probably. I think this is, all right. I think Nuguri is a very, very unique top lane in the sense that, he plays like a goddamn barbarian. And I don't know how well that is going to transfer when he plays against the likes of 369, Wunder, and Zoom. But I'm not sure. Even now when I'm looking at this, I kind of want to move him, because I feel like the way Nuguri plays is not going to fly against these guys. So we're doing it live. I think Nuguri really, really beats down on players that are worse than him. Like, even in this list, like, I have Rascal 5th, right? Rascal 5th is... Rascal solo killed Nuguri. Right? Solo killed Nuguri, and Nuguri solo lost the game. I think Nuguri, in a world where he doesn't have such a powerful mid, jungle, and support, maybe Nuguri would struggle a bit more, because they are definitely supplementing the way he plays. But his synergy with Canyon is still super, super beautiful, and I don't want to, put this up as if Nuguri is, overrated or something. I just want to make sure, in the context of top 4 here, or top 5, this is, the extreme level we're going to look at things. In the context of the tournament, Nuguri is great. You're happy to have Nuguri in the context of, like, being the best top laner. I think he falls a little bit short. 369, I feel like, is like a Zoom light. GENG Rascal, I think, is very, very solid. I think as a team, GENG should shy away from playing Rascal as the aggressor, because I think when he plays so-called safe side, weak sides, and they're playing around bottom side. That's when GENG looks the most dangerous. And the reason I like GENG Rascal so much is because he fits the mold of what the GENG should be super, super well. I think all in all, GENG is a great team, and if they recognize how they should play the game, 2v2 mid into bottom, 2v2 into mid into bottom, over and over, I think they can be very dangerous, because Rascal knows how to take a beating and still stand after the beating. When it comes to the mid lane, nothing has changed for me either. Knight is number 1, Chovy is number 2, Caps is number 3, and Showmaker number 4, BDD. Once again, if someone would tell me that you could change the order of these in any shape or form, I would be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I wouldn't be, completely, in shock if you wanted to put Showmaker first, or if you wanted to put Chovy first, or Knight first, or even Caps first. Caps first would be shocking, because Caps, honestly, the big contrast here and the big discussion around Caps is European mid laners have not been that fantastic. I think EU mids have been kind of up in the air for some time. I think Humanoid is good. I think Larsen is very, very good. And Larsen is a very important topic, because when Caps played against Larsen, Larsen had some games where he performed better than Caps in that best of 5. And I think in a world where Finn plays better and doesn't completely run it down with Aatrox against Shen, I believe that everyone would look at this top list very, very differently. So I put Caps here third with a little bit of grain of salt. But the thing that I appreciate the most about Caps, and something that he does better than the other mid laners on this list, is that Caps' eye for the game and recognizing what he needs to do to win the game is better than everyone above here. Chovy is the one that is the strongest laner. Like if there was a 1v1 tournament, you put your money on Chovy. In terms of 1v1 laning, Chovy is going to be the absolute best here. Knight, I put him first because I put so much emphasis and value on precision of, precision when it comes to 2v2 mids, 3v3 mids, and just understanding the map and never really falling to any ganks. Like, his vision for how he needs to position and how he needs to move is just unmatched. And I think when it comes to winning tournaments, this is going to be a very, very important trait. Like, Knight is coming into the tournament as the rookie of the tournament. Rookie meaning the IG mid laner rookie. And everyone that watches any content on this channel knows that I put rookie in very, very high regard. So this is, the number one kind of badge you can have of honor. Chovy, his lane prowess, as we mentioned. Caps, his vision for the game. Showmaker, I feel like he's kind of Knight light. But there's a world where Showmaker is, above Knight in this aspect. It's just sometimes very difficult to compare regionally, and I think based off of competition alone and the fact that supports in the LPL tend to be much more active in terms of impacting mid, while Showmaker has Beryl doing exactly that, the LPL inspired support playing for Showmaker. I have to put Showmaker down a little peg. And once again, I repeat, if someone told me Showmaker first, I'll be like, yeah, I can make an argument for that. But in the end, this is, I repeat, a biased list. This is my list. Now for the fifth choice. Now, controversial choice. There's going to be people saying Bjergsen. There's going to be people saying Larsen. There's going to be people saying, Angel or Yagao. I put BDD because I think he's very, very underrated. Very underrated. People think of him as just a mage player that chills in the back, but that really isn't him. Like, BDD is, also kind of like a rookie light in terms of how he lanes. Has a great Azir, great Orianna, great Zoe. When I say great, I mean like fucking cream of the crop, it's fucking beautiful. Beautiful, like a really, really top level, right? Can be compared mechanically to these players too when it comes to these champions. Also plays a beautiful Echo, beautiful Akali. The only, problem with BDD most of the time is, the mid lane's reliance on on a jungler and so forth. But nevertheless, BDD is my 5th, and these are my 4. I think these 4 mid laners are in a class of their own. I think mechanically these are hard hitters, crazy good mid laners. And as I mentioned, the honorable mentions, Larsen, Yagao, Angel. Maybe I'm missing someone, but that's it. Bjergs or whatever. 2v2 mid. I think we don't need to dwell on this too much. I think considering the conversation around mid lane that we just had, it speaks for itself. Best bot lane. Same conversation. I think maybe we can put DRX Deft and Keria up here, move them up, and maybe put like FNC Rekkles and Hylissang definitely belong here in the conversation somehow. There's nothing much more to add. Here comes my tier list for teams. I put a supermassive question mark here because I didn't review their games yet and I can't put them up there. But after some revision, I ended up with this. I didn't put numbers on it. I think if you look at it from left to right, it's going to be kind of a reasonable take on what I think is going to happen in this tournament. So the biggest change from the previous video is, of course, DRX's placement. And I'm ready to take the gamble that they've figured out the way they want to play. So there's still the question mark of Doran and Pyosik, but I think DRX individually are super good. And I am taking a leap of faith here on DRX because the meta is not that different. The meta is not that different, so I don't think teams are going to make like monster draft mistakes unless some team manages to, find something exciting and new. But the benefit of DRX playing absolute cocktail and having like very deep champion pools because of it is that within a tournament they can adapt. And there is still a chance that DRX completely shoot themselves in the foot. But I think, the small worry for DRX is that their group is not going to give them time to think too much about it because Mad Lions are going to come swinging in full force. But the benefit, once again, is that their opposition in their group is going to be Top Esports and Mad Lions. FlyQuest, I think, is going to be easy cheese for them. I think they get to see Mad Lions play, they get to prepare for it, and they can do a unique draft. And I think this might cover their weakness for long enough for them to, figure it completely out. I think DRX is going to be dangerous in this tournament, and I put them in A tier because of it. In the previous list, we put them 8th, but I put like a parenthesis 4th, and now I just decided to put them 4th instead because I think the meta is not going to be that dynamic, and I think we're going to see a lot of similarities in contrast to playoffs. I think the same priorities will still stand. Some of the OP must-ban champions have been nerfed. Maybe Twitch is going to show up, or YamatoCannon and so forth. And I think DRX having Deft and Keria, I think they are poised to be dangerous in this tournament. Fnatic Rogue Mad, all in B, TSM LGD in a similar racket. I think they are in a very similar power level. I think LGD is a little bit overhyped because of their wins off of IG. I think LGD, considering that they have go through play-ins, I think puts them at a bit of a disadvantage. And I can definitely see a world where TSM take games off of them. Last one, DE is Team Liquid, Fly, INTZ, UL, MCX. I think INTZ is very exciting because they're very decisive, and I think they're definitely a team. This would be my hot take from this video, is that they're definitely a team that can cause some serious upsets. The nature of the group stage in play-ins is best of one, no double round robin, which is super crazy. That you win one game and then you just have the head-to-head in potential tie-break situations. And if INTZ take a game off of a Team Liquid, I think, that could spell disaster for Team Liquid. And with the nature of best of ones, anything can happen. INTZ is very decisive. They have some players that make some individual mistakes, but I don't know how much like a Team Liquid and FlyQuest, we are going to push them on that edge. I still think, Envy is good, and I think their approach to the game is very unique in terms of how active they are and how good they play around tempo. I think as a team, they play pretty smart. They will fall over when it comes to like mechanical execution in lane phase. That's the thing that I'm worried about the most when it comes to INTZ. But I think there's a world where INTZ get through, honestly. Well, that's a hot take. Unicorns of Love is almost like the opposite of INTZ. I think individually, Unicorns of Love is very strong. Can look like a team from a major region when we're thinking about Europe and maybe team and of course North America. But as a team, they are kind of all over the place, and it's hard to know if they're going to figure out the way they want to draft. I'm not too sure. This also comes with some question marks. MachiX Esports or MachiX Esports is the way they want to be named. I wasn't too impressed. I feel like Machi Esports is kind of like a North American team light. All the other, like I had Supermassive here as a question mark because I don't know too much about Supermassive. I think the other teams don't excite me that much, but I give myself the little leeway that it's tough to compare regions, so you kind of have to do it based off instinct and from what you hear and from what you know. So with that being said, I reserve the right for being wrong about some of the playing teams. So this is my ranking. Damwon S, top Eastbourne JDG, I just put him a little bit above Damwon. I think it's just deserved because of just the level of competition is higher here. DRX Genji, Suning, G2, so forth. This is self-explanatory. Oh, this was not intentional. Control Z. Okay, groups. So this is the groups for those who don't know. First group, I put G2 and Suning second. We imagined that like Team Liquid could be here, or maybe an INTZ could be here, or Unicorns of Love could be here, and then Team Liquid could slot into Group B as well. So that's something that can be swapped out, right? Because after review, I don't really believe that PSG are going to get through. I think it's going to be super, super tough. I think all in all, whatever. I think JDG first in terms of power level against Damwon. I think there is a world where Damwon gets first because of the nature of best of ones. Genji Fnatic to come out of this group. I don't think so highly of LGT or TSM. I think Fnatic and Genji are better and they're going to, take it home. And then finally, DRX Top Esports. And I think, honestly, people look at Group C as a group of death, which I think in this year is probably the closest thing to group of death. Maybe you could argue that potentially Group B is a group of death because Rogue is not that bad. And the difference between LGD and Genji is similar of Rogue between Damwon. So that could also be a group of death. Mad Lions slotting into Group D also can get very dangerous. So I think there's definitely some argument to be had. I think Group A is definitely, the group of life. And if G2 bomb out of this group, it would be really funny. And G2 players are not going to outlive that. That's going to stick around. But if you're feeling spicy, maybe you put Mad Lions to get out, maybe Rogue to get out, maybe TSM to get out. LGD, I have very little hope in. Considering they are also going through play-ins, that's going to give away a lot of information. This one I decided to show not because I wanted to make any type of predictions, but if any upsets are going to happen, in my opinion, I think it's going to be through INTZ and Unicorns of Love. This is a single round robin. Each team plays 4 games, and that in itself is crazy. So the way it works is top 3 qualify for the playoffs, and the way it works is, let me just double check how the bracket looks like so I don't talk out of my arse. Okay. So basically what happens is if I understand this correctly, is top 4 teams qualify to playoffs. The 5th team is out, right? The 5th team is out. And then number one seed automatically qualifies to the event. So let's say LGD and Mad Lions auto qualify. And then number 3 and 4 in the same group play each other. And then the winner of that best of 5 is going to play the number 2 seed of the opposite group. So top 4 go to playoffs because they need to fill in the best of 5 days. And then that's it. So I guess the lethality of best of 1s is kind of slightly diminished through that, because you have best of 5s to show yourself off. And if somehow a major region is not in this playoff bracket, then it's kind of a meme. But I think there is definitely room for some upsets, and I think considering you go as top 4 into the playoff bracket, I think most major regions are going to be fine here. We're looking at Team Liquid, LGD, and the Mad Lions, of course. But all in all, Group A is definitely the group of death here. It's a group of death. A group of death. Group of death. Group of danger. Let's say group of danger. Group of death is a bit too extreme. All in all, that's the end of this video. I hope this summary serves you well. I hope I'm not recycling content. I just wanted to, not have a wishy-washy video as, the one to look back to after the tournament ends. I think this is a better way to put it. I hope you guys enjoyed the Google Doc that is blackened. I made the background black and the text white just to make sure that you guys that are looking and reading this embed don't go completely blind, because I need views, and the views are given to me through your eyes. Thank you for watching this video. If you sneeze during this video, bless you and bless your face. And also go and hug a family member if you can. If you can't, look in the mirror and tell yourself that you can do it. If you conquer the enemy within, the enemy of outside will do you no harm.